Hi there, welcome back to your favorite deep dive show on stories contemporary and consequential for India. Last episode, I profiled for you the Pakistan army, its deep tentacles and its tight grip over Pakistan. As the adage goes, while nations keep armies, in the case of Pakistan, the army keeps the nation. Rooted in hate for India and inspired by jihad, the Pakistan army has not inflicted last of its terror acts by way of Pahalgam. It is unfortunate and sad, but true that there would be more such attacks in future. We cannot make a mistake of the kind we made in Pahalgam with lax security. The security gap that left those tourists unprotected on April 22 must not be repeated at any cost. Operation Sindoor has created a new normal of lowering the bar above which Pakistan would attract India's kinetic response. We have discussed in detail the military strategy and tactics, the success of our air defense systems, the precision-guided destruction of terror infrastructure, and how Indian armed forces delivered their most visible mission success in recent times. Military leaders the world over are taking note. But this episode, I am focusing on the geopolitical side of India's response to Pahalgam. How did the world respond? Did we find friendship among our friends? Are we back to square one on dehyphenation between India and Pakistan? How has diplomacy fared post-Pahalgam? We are in the midst of an ongoing tour of 7 all-party delegations that are on a briefing spree through world capitals. Why were those nations chosen? What are our objectives? What we intend to achieve? A lowdown in segment 1. And then, to close the episode, a short segment on the first American Pope in the history of Roman Catholic Church. What it means for America's declining hegemony. Let's get going.
Just days ago, my administration successfully brokered a historic ceasefire to stop the escalating violence between India and Pakistan. And I used trade to a large extent to do it. I said, fellas, come on, let's make a deal. Let's do some trading. Let's not trade nuclear missiles. Let's trade the things that you make so beautifully. And they both have very powerful leaders, very strong leaders, good leaders, smart leaders. And it all stopped.
Donald Trump, the US president who eats deals for breakfast and cracks 2 before going to bed, or so he wants the world to believe, tried to take away some thunder of Operation Sindoor by not only announcing the ceasefire before India or Pakistan did, but also claiming mediation on Kashmir. This has been strongly rebutted by New Delhi. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has made it clear that there was no mediation for ceasefire and there would be none whatsoever on Kashmir. Listen in.
One, where Pakistan is concerned, our relations, our dealings with them will be bilateral and strictly bilateral. That is a national consensus for many years, and there is absolutely no change in that consensus that dealings with Pakistan will be bilateral.
With his comments, Trump broke a 2.5-decade-old consensus of American foreign policy on South Asia, that of dehyphenation between India and Pakistan. Mediation over Kashmir was dumped completely post the 9/11 realignments. At least 4 American presidents, including Trump in his own first term, stayed away from mentioning the K word while speaking on India and Pakistan. In his first term, when Pulwama happened in 2019, Trump kept his counsel. The United States discreetly prevailed over Pakistan to hand over pilot Abhinandan Varthaman back to India, and even blocked a couple of Pakistan and China-sponsored motions at the UN Security Council. This time, initial reaction from Raisina was of disbelief, if not outright shock. Then came the thought that with Trump, this should be anticipated turbulence. The quickest understanding inside Jawaharlal Nehru Bhavan, the headquarters of Ministry of External Affairs, was that Trump was just being Trump, that it was a case of typical Trumpist overreach. After all, India is not the first ally the mercurial president has rubbed the wrong way since coming to power in the second term. In fact, there's no ally of America that has not squirmed at his Truth Social broadsides. From buying Panama Canal to Greenland, from the White House roast of Zelensky and Cyril Ramaphosa to taking a jab at Keir Starmer and Macron, Trump has spared no one. And then there have been reports, as yet not denied by the White House, of some Trump aides' family business links in Pakistan. Look at this report. This says that Trump family backed World Liberty Financial, or WLF, signed the US $300+ million deal with Pakistan Crypto Council on April 26, just 4 days after the Pahalgam terror attack. Both sons of Trump, Eric and Trump Jr., as also his son-in-law Jared Kushner, together hold 60% stakes in the company. Co-chair of this company is Zachary or Zach Witkoff, son of Steve Witkoff, Trump's golfing partner and his special envoy to Russia and West Asia. All this has happened amid a raging controversy in American politics over Trump accepting a gift of a jumbo jet from the Qatari royal family, a Boeing that would become the official carrier of the American president, and on Trump completing his term would become his private jet. If Trump's deal-making is affecting America's foreign policy, too bad for the Americans. It takes away all or any moral underpinning that the USA would have had. Disquiet in the Modi government has got some in the commentariat and a section of the opposition excited in India. They say, look how the cheerleaders of Trump in India's right wing are having to eat their words. How Trump has punctured all enthusiasm that had built around right-wing bonhomie with mega constituency of Trump's America. To them, here's a glimpse of how the United States behaved in the aftermath of the 26/11. And remember, US had lost 6 of its citizens in that terror attack in Mumbai in 2008. And the most ideologically aligned Obama was president. The Americans allowed David Coleman Headley to enter a plea bargain. Access to his testimony was restricted. US let ISI off the hook by saying it was not sure that the agency's leadership knew about the attack. The American prevarication was exasperatingly similar to Pakistan, to the extent that when a few US citizens brought a suit in a New York court against then ISI chief Ahmad Shuja Pasha, who had met 26/11 mastermind Zakir Rahman Lakhvi in a Pakistani jail, the US government of Obama chose to grant him immunity. In the latest round, some of the unhappiness has been communicated to the Americans through the interlocutors. But with mercurial Trump, this might not have much impact. Any pressure can prove counterproductive. Given Trump's sense of self, New Delhi would have some tightrope walking going ahead to not let this turbulence affect the otherwise bright long-term relationship. Prime Minister Modi and his team of diplomats have a task at hand to make the India-United States partnership Trump-proof till 2029. Elsewhere, the response from the international fraternity has been along expected lines. For them, the nuclear button is the bugbear. Their main interest is to prevent a nuclear escalation between India and Pakistan. On this front, India's measured and proportionate response, even as we ride up the escalation metrics, should have put those doubts to rest. By calling up the Pakistani DGMO on the morning of May 7 and telling them that our military objectives had been achieved, India showed statesmanship in the face of an irresponsible adversary. The signaling could not have been clearer. We were not interested in escalating the conflict, but only in degrading the terror infrastructure targeted at India. From Kargil to Uri, from Pulwama to Pahalgam, with each episode, India has shown that a sharp escalation of costs on Pakistan can be managed despite the nuclear overhang. Now let us go nation-wise. First up, Turkey. Turkey, under Erdogan, fancies itself at the center of a new caliphate and has been jousting with Saudi Arabia to take on the Islamic world's leadership. The caliphate fantasy has taken some comic turn also, with the projection of Netflix series Ertugrul Ghazi, for example, as some kind of leadership posturing for the Ummah. With that pan-Islamism, Erdogan has been talking up Pakistan for the last decade and more. It was as part of this caliphate dreams that he created a troika of Turkey, Pakistan, and Malaysia a few years back. The idea was to create a counterweight to the Saudis. That explains the ideological basis of Turkey providing those drones that Pakistan used against India during Operation Sindoor. Erdogan also sent some military contractors to help inept Pakistani soldiers fire those drones, two of whom perished in the Indian counter-strikes. Apart from this, parking a naval frigate in Karachi port during the standoff was clearly provocative. India hit back with withdrawing of some contracts, including the license of airport ground handling company Celebi. Public response was even more telling. Turkey's exports to India stand at around $4 billion against $900 million only to Pakistan. This indulgence with Pakistan is sure going to hurt Turkey monetarily. But then, the motivation being pan-Islamism and not trade, nothing might come out of India's boycotts. We have at least made a point. Universities across the country withdrew from the MOUs they had signed with the Turkish counterparts. Erdogan was bestowed an honorary doctorate by the Jamia Millia Islamia of Delhi during his 2018 visit. That too should stand withdrawn. China next. Among India's strategic community, it is clear that any war with Pakistan is a proxy war with China. From the J-10 fighter jets to the PL-15 ballistic missiles to the HQ-9 air defense shield, the entire war machine directed against India is Chinese-made. One might say thankfully, because none of it fired properly in Pakistani hands. India officially claimed through a Ministry of Defense think tank that the Chinese put their military satellites at the disposal of Pakistanis to gather real-time intelligence on India's military response. What this means, though, is that in any future conflict, India has to take into account this dynamic that Pakistan has an inexhaustible supply of war machine to tap. The late General Bipin Rawat was not wrong in propounding the two-front war theory. In a scenario of a full-fledged war with Pakistan, China is likely to open a pressure point on the Eastern Front. There has to be enough wargaming for that possibility within India's strategic community. Not for nothing, the first thing Pakistanis did on de-escalation was to scoot to China with a Thanksgiving note. Europe played responsible, with statements from London, Paris, Brussels, and Berlin appreciative of India's right to respond to the Pahalgam provocation. Many of the leaders from these countries called Prime Minister Modi directly to express their support. From the Muslim world, Saudi Arabia and the UAE, both having made tremendous strides in their India relationship, played a constructive role. It was not missed by Riyadh that the Pahalgam terror attack happened when Prime Minister Modi was their guest. And so the Saudi Minister of State for Foreign Affairs did not so behind-the-scenes ping-pong diplomacy to calm the tempers. The most encouraging reaction perhaps came from Afghanistan, with the Kabul regime, remember, as yet not recognized by India, is strongly condemning the terror attack in Kashmir. A lot is happening on the Afghanistan front. As if on cue, Foreign Minister Jaishankar had a phone call with Taliban Foreign Minister Amir Khan Motaki. This was highest level contact between the two sides since the first Taliban government in 1999, and is testament to some nimble-footed diplomacy by India of late. The outreach through all party delegations to 33 countries is carefully crafted. The list includes all members of the UN Security Council, minus China and Pakistan, of course. All those UN member states that would join the UN Security Council next year, plus the permanent members, Russia, USA, France, UK, again excluding China. The delegations are carrying country-specific dossiers. For example, the team traveling to France is carrying notes on how Pakistan originating extremism and terrorism are behind some of the attacks that have taken place on the French soil. The point is, America or no America, West or no West, India has to frame its own response to cross-border terrorism emanating from Pakistan. We have to make sure that Pakistan pays every time a Pahalgam happens next. In military terms, with Operation Sindoor, India has expanded the maneuverable space in which it can carry out kinetic actions in response to future terror attacks. Beginning with the Kargil War of 1999 and through the Uri, Pulwama and Pahalgam episodes, the escalation metrics in terms of inflicting costs has been going up. There is no evidence that Pakistan would desist from terrorism as instrument of state policy. Past episodes like the 26/11 Mumbai attack show its responses are tactical retreat and obfuscation, nothing more. Terrorism is hardwired into Pakistani society and polity. The Pakistan army is only the most potent and visible symbol of the radicalized society that Pakistan is. Imagine the Mumbai attack happened months after a preposterous compromise by India when the Manmohan Singh government let Baluchistan be slipped into the Sharm el-Sheikh joint statement. This is yet another proof, if one more was needed, that Pakistan cannot be appeased. It is like feeding a crocodile in the hope of buying peace. No, it won't happen. We have to keep on our guard. Moving on to the second segment, the American Pope.
Fratelli e sorelle, l'immane tragedia della Seconda Guerra Mondiale terminava 80 anni fa, l'8 maggio, dopo aver causato 60 milioni di vittime. Mai più la guerra!
You would have missed the irony. At a moment of history when the United States of America is seen as withdrawing from its leadership of the free world, and indeed the rest of the world, the Catholic Church elected its first American Pope. Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, born in a Chicago suburb, Rob for family, Bob for friends, was picked to be the successor of Pope Francis. Now called Pope Leo XIV, in his first speech at the Sunday Mass on May 18, the new Pope promised to continue the legacy of his predecessor in reaching out to the margins of the Catholic Church. Prevost has taken his papal name from 19th century Pope Leo XIII, who led the Church during the First Industrial Revolution. The incumbent believes the advent of artificial intelligence provides similar challenges to mankind. America is, of course, excited. The Time magazine wrote, "For the first time ever, the most famous American in the world is not the president or a Hollywood icon or a tech billionaire, it's the Pope." St. Peter's Square was brimming with American flags when the announcement was made from the Sistine Chapel. In America, the news of an American Pope was received with excitement. A fractured polity united for once in seeing in the first America-born Pope part redemption of its leadership of the world that they have been relinquishing on the geopolitical plane. Like a typical Chicagoan, Prevost supports the Chicago White Sox baseball team in the Major League. Vice President J.D. Vance, during his first meeting, brought a jersey of the team as a souvenir, to which the Pope said, "Good choice." There was partisan subtext, of course. The Democrats, for example, point out to his strong views on social justice, migrants issue, and poverty. Typically Catholic, one might say. The Republicans find him closer to their worldview on abortion, religious liberty, among others. Again, typically Catholic. Apt for the America of our times. Even Pope gets divided along the political divide. The Pope has taken a strong position on Gaza, asking for a ceasefire and humanitarian aid to flow uninterrupted, something the Democrats would see as an endorsement of their positions. At the same time, Leo's harping on immediate cessation of hostilities in Ukraine is seen by the Republicans as endorsement of Trump administration's priorities. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who represented the USA at the Pope's inauguration, quipped that in their personal audience, the head of the Catholic Church, said that the world was in such a situation that while an American president wanted peace, Europe was persisting with war. We don't know if Rubio was ad-libbing to please his president, who grinned on the sidelines. But if true, then this was a telling comment on the world we live in and America's place in it. It's been 5 months and more, and the war Trump promised to end within 24 hours of his inauguration continues with no signs of ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia. Listen to this.
We honor all of their words. We'll see what happens, but I think, I believe that hopefully that's over with. And they'll leave the ships alone, just leave those ships alone. But so we do. We take their word for it. It was, we hit them very hard. They had a great capacity to withstand punishment. They took tremendous punishment. And, you could say there's a lot of bravery there. It was amazing what they took. But we honor their commitment and their word. They gave us their word that they wouldn't be shooting ships anymore, and we honor that.
This was Trump casually commending the bravery of the Houthis, a medieval, ill-equipped militia in Yemen that has shrugged off American bombings and continues to be a nuisance for the world in the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea. The American defeat in Afghanistan remains etched in the memory as a disaster. The world now knows Trump is bluffing his way on Kashmir mediation, for nothing like that happened or is going to happen. Israel-Gaza war is becoming a humanitarian mess, with America failing to provide any leadership. China gave a tech scare with DeepSeek trumping most American AI models. The Trump tariff war has left global economic consensus in tatters and confused. In this time of American decline, an American Pope seems like a glimmer of hope for the Americans. Within Vatican, however, Prevost was known as the least American of the cardinals, perhaps because he wears his authority lightly. Then there's a technicality. Though America-born, Prevost has Peruvian citizenship since 2015, the country of his work over the last 3 decades, where he served as a missionary and an archbishop, before being picked up for Vatican duties as a cardinal in 2023. In that sense, he is second Latin American Pope in succession, as Francis was from Argentina. That he is a church insider can be gauged from the fact that his election took little over 24 hours, the second shortest time in which the College of Cardinals elected Pope, the shortest being 10 hours in 1503 when Julius II was elected. In his first address from the pulpit, Pope Leo XIV spoke in Italian and Spanish, not English. Another marker, perhaps, that America is grappling with a generational identity crisis. Thanks for watching.
Among the best ways to serve the country is by being a journalist, by using the news media and being part of the news media to make a positive change in the country. I'm so excited about the Republic School of Journalism. I truly believe that all those who will be with us at the Republic School of Journalism will get tremendous hands-on experience with me here in the campus of the Republic Media Network. They will meet the best journalists, those who are practicing the profession. They will be seeing and be part of a very, very active and very energetic newsroom. And I believe the best education for a journalist is at work. So if you want to be a journalist, if you want to sharpen your journalistic skills,